Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Welcome to Theoryforge Chronicles, Sunday edition, I guess. I am Phantom X, joined as always by legendary Neurotoxin, the infamous Diggs, and Zog is joining us today too. So pried him away from the holiday activities. How's everybody doing? It's Sunday, so it's not Friday.
Still good.
Doing good. I just realized we missed the opportunity to go with the name What You Talking Bot.
Yeah. I guess I should have asked.
It's all good.
I like Sunday. The problem with Sunday is the opposite of Friday, though, that you might have things that you just desperately need to accomplish by the end of the weekend on a normal week. But Friday, it's like the other problem of you're still recovering from the week itself. But I'm glad I can make it this week.
Well, we've talked about moving to Sundays, so we'll see how this goes, I guess. Anyways, yeah, we are making up for Friday. That was my fault. Was not able to join us sort of last minute. So we are here now. And, of course, the big thing is the Settlers phase, which is start and stopped, what, twice, three? I don't know how many times.
It's just in some
intermittent. It's intermittent. You could you had short windows in which you could spend $1,000 on a duchy, but if you're real lucky, you can click fast enough and do it.
But they all pretty much have been sold, right?
Yeah, they went fast.
Yeah, I didn't get a look at it before they took it down, so I know you had mentioned that.
On Angelica, I believe there are 2 duchies in Tyria that would be odd purchases. I would be surprised if anybody runs to spend money on the duchy there. One in Riftwood that I believe is in the customer service stage of like, it was half bought, but with the up and down, it's still going. But with how quick Aranor filled up, and it was fast. People like to click buttons.
I'm not surprised by that, because there were so few. I guess I think there were 17 duchies available. Something like 900 counties. I have it wrote down somewhere. Something like 900 counties, and then there was 5,000 or so settlements. So.
Yeah, I saw a couple counties go in Riftwood. I had a lot of trouble navigating the site, and I wasn't doing a data pull or anything like that to check. But in Riftwood, we were not surprised. We had people ready months ago, and they talked, and they were like kind of like to be dukes, and the people that we expected to be buying the spots bought them immediately, and in these little windows when the site was up. So that all went as planned. I am glad that I already have everything that I want, because the prices, the price for a county, any county that I would be interested in, is way more than I paid for to start with. And I was kind of hoping to see some lower starting prices. I understand with the duchies, people have been desperate for the ability to buy a duchy for a long time, but I was surprised at the number of counties that are well over $400 when $375 was the county upgrade. But if people are buying them, that's good, and they will go down. But I was surprised at the number. When you see it on the page, it feels different to, well, if I get this pack and it has an upgrade, and then I get an upgrade pack, and then I've already spent more than $500. But it didn't feel like that. I didn't look at a $440 county and be like, yes. No, spending the money before was about spending to participate in DSS and, getting a pick time, being ready to do all that, and I enjoyed it, but I am surprised at the price.
I guess not enough people bought advent calendars, so they upped the price.
What?
I can't buy things in December like that.
Really? Why not?
Because I buy things for my wife and my kids.
I think Diggs was saying we should have been here last show, because that's kind of where we took the timing.
I'm just saying timing, especially from what we're hearing on the weekend when everything's crashing. This is definitely not very good timing to have people stuck almost everybody except one specific person stuck at the office trying to fix things. Holiday season might not be the best time for that. But.
Yeah, I mean, that's why as always, I question putting something like this going when you're going to be going on a break, especially like the end of the year break for something that's like scheduled. But
well, Caspian's going on a break. Nobody else is.
Well, if the usual, unless you work retail, and I guess you could make an analogy to retail, but like for the jobs that I work, we spent the last 2 weeks ensuring that people that weren't taking the time off had things that they could do that didn't require them to be interacting with other people, right? So it was about setting up the ability for anyone in any role to go on vacation, but the people who were there, who are still around, to not end up with blockers, right? Because other people are on vacation. And that's doable, but when you have a site outage, or that's a blocker. It's a big deal. And if you're going to plan something like that as a company, you got to start talking about that in September, that it's everybody, like, we're not taking time off between Christmas and New Year's this year because that's our big launch. Start talking to your family, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not Macy's, right? It's can't hear you, Neuro.
With the idea that it was actually going to go smoothly, the timing of it probably wouldn't have necessarily been that bad. It was still maybe a little questionable to do it right at the end of the year here instead of waiting a little bit, but they might have had a reason or have some reason why they wanted to get it out of the way and get it done as quickly as possible. But it's they're saying that I'm quiet even while I'm not muted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that where you've got a scheduled break coming up, you've got a maybe 6 week long event or however long it's going to be going here, and it's something where I as a worker would see, wait, we're about to release something that's a live thing going on the website. It has to work right because it's only going to run once. and we're supposed to just be on vacation while it happens. Suspicious. But, at the same time, this might have been something that they've arranged and decided on long in advance. So, having all the time to prepare. This is not something they really talk about in any extent outside of the office. So I have no idea what the actual wheelings and dealings are here. I don't think anybody really does.
And I wouldn't expect them to communicate. It wouldn't even feel right if they did communicate that. We don't need to know. We're not letting people take vacation this year for Christmas because we're putting out Settlers of Elyria. Whoa! Hold up there.
So
I don't know. Once you have the crashes, we kind of know that people are going to have to be working, trying to get it working again.
So a big part of what we have been talking about, or I guess I have been talking about in our Discord chat, because it's been talked about a lot on their Discord chat, was this idea of bots, which has had a lot of people, I guess, upset. I think that was sort of the initial response was, we turned this on and immediately there were thousands of requests and it slowed us down to a crunch. And so I thought it would be good to kind of talk about bots a little bit because I don't think people fully get what that even means or what. So just so everyone knows, I think a lot of people already do know. I during DSS I wrote a C# program that scrapes the JSON data from the API. So I guess have a bot. What has sort of come, I think, now from their most latest update was that I think clearly not bots, although they might not have helped the situation. It sounds like there's more of an issue with it and how they implemented. My guess is by the flash sales and the changes in price, they introduced a new piece of code. If you don't pay attention to developer tools, you wouldn't even notice. But there was a clear new piece of code that what did you describe it as?
There's a whole new feature on the website with the pop-up too.
Yeah, it's a Signal R, which uses
Signal
WebSockets and some other stuff. But
it's a .NET framework module that allows for asynchronous communication. So if you have a website open, it'll send you a message when something changes and force you to reload the piece, right? So it'll be keeping track of who you are and bouncing things back and forth, and it's real stable and it's designed so that even old browsers can work with it. Like new browsers, you just connect to a WebSocket and you get streaming up and down whenever you want, and it's fine, but it doesn't work on every mobile device. Web development, it gets hard when you try to make it work for everyone who has access to a web page, right? And part of what Signal R does is to help you handle that, because if your website is updating and it matters now, so that people don't leave the site up for 5 days and go to buy something that says $250 and they try to buy it for $250 and then they go through the whole process and they spend $250 and then they reload the page and see that it's $179. All of that needs to be taken care of. There are a lot of interesting problems to solve, and it's very hard to solve all of those problems when you're dealing with people on mobile devices. You don't know what browser they're using. People could be using, Netscape 4.0 or whatever, before it was even Mozilla. So you need to be able to handle that, but then you end up working with a million different toolkits and a million different libraries to help it, and it convolutes everything.
Yeah, so I assume that is kind of where this error has popped up is somehow within that code. But again, back to bots, and I don't know. So I guess I can speak to my perspective. I think one of the thoughts is somebody using a bot to purchase settlements, purchase things as they price changes. I guess that is possible. That's not what I do or have done. Mine is a pure C#. So the purpose of it is to just gather data. So I don't know how much people really understand when you go to the website, right? You have a front end, you click on a settlement, that triggers a request to the API. The API handles that request, sends back its response, which is the data, the JSON data for whatever settlement you have selected, or county or duchy, and then JavaScript then takes that data, interprets it, puts it in a visual representation, and that's what you see on your screen. Now, the program that I have does not do any of that. It basically does not interact with the front end at all. It just interacts with the API. In some perspective, to hit all four servers, it takes it about 17 to 18 hours to complete. And it comes down to about 1 request per second or so, which really is not a lot. I mean, an API should be able to handle that. And I think that was one of the first things that we kind of, Sog, you mentioned too, when the post says, oh, well, there were thousands of requests. It's like, thousands is not that many. Like
thousands just seems like normal users if you just open a feature like this.
Well, that's what I mean. And the bot that I have basically is an end user, more or less. I mean, I guess it's more intensive than that over time. But in the moment, it's the equivalent. Now, I can't speak to
plus or
everyone
minus
else.
because it doesn't have to transmit all the visual data and all the front end data the same way. So if it's just like, oh, you're looking for this, here's this. Oh, you're looking for this, here's this. That's completely different than having to chug and all the back and forth and make sure everything loads. Then you make one click and then it has to re-chug the entire thing. Yeah, that's. I would imagine what your system is doing there is a lot more lightweight in the long run than any individual user just like clicking around with high-speed internet.
Yeah,
but the actual data transfer is small. I also, someone was asking for some map data. I wrote in an hour or something. I wrote a cloud deployed AWS system that every 500 milliseconds pings the next thing on the list and grabs all the information. And I ran it once, but it's 120 requests to a text document a minute. It's not a denial of service attack, right? So I'm not doing, if people are being irresponsible and repeatedly asynchronously hitting everyone at the same time and hoping to get it all back, that's irresponsible. But at the same time, it's a text document that is static, so it's not changing. It can be kept in memory. It can be transmitted over HTTP requests very, very quickly because it's a few kilobytes, right? It's not a huge file. It's fine. But now, if people are running in a different way, so they didn't look in the code, see the endpoints where you can get the JSON text and pull that. If they're downloading all the images and doing all of that, then that's where a problem can come in. That if you're running a bot to try to download all of those images over and over and over again quickly, you end up bogging down the server with IO, input output. So they're not all kept in memory. They're read from disk and back and forth every time, and it bogs down the whole system and becomes a problem. But Zeke says the difference between DDoS and lots of people connecting is that users connect in different times. In this case, probably within 30 seconds to a couple minutes. But a DDoS ends up being millions of distributed requests from a botnet, right? It's not like me sending a request every second from something that I'm running on my computer. That is fewer requests. It's fewer requests than if I'm browsing the site and I'm clicking. Because when you click, you're doing more than one request. You're doing Zeke is right. It could be millions or billions, and computers who have no idea that
Internet of Things. Yep.
Yeah, they have no idea that they're participating. But I don't think that that's been the complaint. The complaint is about people just scraping, and scraping is, well, not only one, legal. Two, several big cases just were upheld by federal courts saying that you can scrape data. So it's legal.
It's legal, but this is a private company. It's not like freedom of speech and stuff. If you do something that violates their terms, they still reserve the right to terminate you for it.
They can terminate your account, but what if you don't have an account? What does it matter? I mean, you're not. This is not a malicious attack. It's
right.
It's just. Right. It's just data collecting from things that public endpoint.
And it's not like it's something that's revealing something that they don't want to. There might be some data in there that does contain stuff that they don't want people revealing, but I believe there's layers of security involved with accessing, like figuring out who's somebody's, the actual name of somebody who claimed a place or whatever, their, username. There's somewhere in the system where that exists.
Not available.
That's not something that you can get. Yeah, not at all. That would require.
That would be a whole different hacking experience that I don't even know how I would do it. So
I guess
that's a good thing, because
that's a show for a different channel.
I don't do that.
I guess I should point out I'm not actively doing that, and I will not be during this time. I had during downtime have an initial data set, and that's all I really. I don't think people really have a need to constantly be doing this. I assume the reason that it is being done is to catch those price changes, catch those flash sales. I think there are probably easier ways to do that. You could just monitor your client, right, for when it gets pushed up with a new flash sale and capture that. But and it is important, I guess. Sagi mentioned being responsible. Part of why it takes 18 hours, I built in sort of self-limiting stops that's built in within, so it doesn't ping the API. Even if you do that, though, they already have a timeout function. So they time out the program anyway. So you can't do that repeatedly for a long period of time. Now, that's, I guess, not to say there aren't some irresponsible people who don't have, a bot per kingdom, a bot per duchy, all running at the same time. I guess
that's still minuscule.
It is.
It's still tiny.
It is. I mean, part of this is just, again, the communication from the top that, these are bots. This is the problem. If you have bots, turn them off, which I think is as a sort of a quick excuse. But I think anyone who has created one and runs it realizes, well, if that actually is the case, you have bigger problems than a single bot hitting your API, because you should be able to handle those. And I actually put a picture just so people can see what actually gets returned. Like I said, this has no interaction with the front end whatsoever. So there's no HTML, no CSS, no images, no JavaScript. It's just hitting the API. And this is sort of what will return. You guys won't be able to see it, but it will be on the stream. So this is the data that gets returned back. It's just a text file. And then JavaScript, right, if it's through the front end, JavaScript would loop over this, pull out things, display it for you. But this is what we are pulling out, and then you can manipulate that later. I mentioned maps, separate. It was sort of I guess I should say there's two programs. One was a bot to just get the data. Then I wrote a separate program within C# that actually manipulates the data, which is completely independent. It's a totally separate thing. Doesn't have anything to do with their bandwidth. At that point, once the data is off the site, there's no more use for the site at that point. So I just, there are other ways, I guess. Again, talking about being responsible, you could use a browser-based. I think I've heard at some point during DSS, somebody had mentioned, I won't say who it was actually capturing the files as they transferred through a browser. As Sog just mentioned, that's going to be a whole lot more strain on.
But if you're just leaving it open and waiting for it to happen, you're no more than one more user.
Well, but I assume at that point you're clicking through every single set of.
You don't have to click.
No, I'm talking about through an actual user experience with a browser, right? Because you can go into developer tools, download the. You
could do that. You could run a headless.
It's a completely inefficient way to do it, but that's possible. Because then the other question is, well, how can they stop it? I mean, you could, I guess, force a login, right, to view. I don't know that would limit you. You could still scrape data, even if you had to log in. You just send headers with the appropriate credentials, or you use a browser or a headless browser. So I don't know that there's a lot of good answers to bots. I don't know that there needs to be. It shouldn't.
But
be
they can't. They can't be the level of problem that the communication, that the conversation has hyped them up to be, unless they're malicious bots, right? Like a non-malicious bot is not making any difference to the performance of this site.
Right. I mean, I can't remember as among conversations you guys were having or some of the other conversations I was seeing, but from the sound of it, it was just a whole lot of different features on the website that didn't want to participate together, and it may have initially looked like it was an issue involving bots and requests and something like that, when in actuality it was just something not hooked up correctly. And for all I know, it's actually just it's one of those quick fixes that it's a quick fix once you actually figure out what it is, sort of things. The one nail on the orange plant, where you have to go all the way up and down the line. When the guy knocks down the nail that's messing up with the oranges, it's like, that'll be $10,000. Well, what do you mean? It's like, oh yeah, no, it's like, you just nailed down a hammer down a nail. Well, yeah, no, I had to know which nail it was. It could be very much something like that, where they need to figure out exactly what's going on that's making them think that it was working in this way. That's just what I've gathered from some side conversations. I'm not sure truly what the official stance is and what's going on here.
I think that what would be much worse than me running a bot that just sent a bunch of requests is that if you mess up the back and forth, the ping pong, because so many of us just leave the domain site open.
Yeah.
Right. So when you add in a system that is polling, that it periodically is sending your request and says, hey, did it change? Hey, is my version good? 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 So everybody opens up the site just naturally using it, and all of a sudden, all of them are saying, hey, is my version good at the same time, and it turns into this huge amount of noise, and they're getting pinged back. So
I see.
By setting up this asynchronous system, they created a way where people that just leave their computer on and open to the page are dramatically increasing the request volume. And if that's not tuned correctly...
And I assume that's what the problem was. I told you, I opened, I first day had the browser open. And I'm weird, so I always have browsers open with developer tools. And in 30 minutes, there were 12, 15 different, error messages on the console, ping pong requests, are you there? So in my head, I assumed when they noticed this big uptick is they just had normal users, like you said, sitting there, either not browsing or browsing, but all of a sudden they have a huge increase in the amount of requests and responses and all this. And they saw that as bots. The reality is bots don't even interact with that part, right? So my program wouldn't touch the front end. There would be no conversation back and forth.
I mean, we could write a bot that just connected to the ping pong.
Yes, but
that's not what. I don't think that's what anybody was doing. I don't think that's what the complaint was.
So
I want to make it clear, everybody, that this episode isn't us like sitting here trying the SBS web team. That shenanigans happen. We always expect shenanigans with the web stuff. This happened to be the shenanigans this time. It happens.
You're right. We're not.
we're not like, oh man, they suck at their job. No, it's if anything, we have sympathy for them having to deal with this stuff coming into the holiday season, and hope they can figure it out as quickly as possible, because this is not a fun thing to have to go into the holidays.
I wanted to do this, and I'm the one that sort of pushed this part to the show, is because I'm kind of annoyed, and I've kept my mouth shut within their Discord because there's just these fairly frequent, people pop in. Why is the site, where's the site? Oh, it's down. Why is it down? Bots. And then it's sort of like, they need to ban all of them. They need to kick them out. And I guess that means me. So let me actually explain to you what that is and what it isn't, so you can better understand. One thing I actually have mentioned to them that I think would maybe, if they are really worried about bots, is just say, every week we're going to just give you a data dump. You can download it. It's basically a dump of the price changes over that week period. You don't have to scrape. You don't have to ping our API. We're just going to give you the data in bulk, in a different method. I think if they're really worried, that would probably help.
I don't know. I don't think.
I personally don't know why people care about the price changes myself, but that's why I'm not doing it during this phase.
If there are people that are being irresponsible and not setting timeouts on requests or not keeping things civil, there's nothing wrong with gathering data from the website. It's literally, it's 100% fewer requests and less data downloading than me clicking around the map, right? It's way less than me clicking around the map and writing it down. So that can't possibly be the problem. But if there are people that are asynchronously trying to pull all of the data from the site every 15 seconds or something like that, yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe somebody wrote crazy bots like that with total disregard to.
That's possible.
Because I could write that, but I wouldn't, because nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants their website to be hit by, 15,000 requests a second from one user. And I think that's being irresponsible more than being malicious, right? So a responsible web scraping or API scraping bot, you do a couple of requests a second and not a lot more than that, because that's not what, you don't need that resolution for whatever you're doing. And you can't sell this data anyway, so it's not like there's value to getting it way faster. I hope that people aren't doing that, but I won't totally write that off. There might be something like that happening. There might be a bunch of people that just hit every endpoint every 15 seconds and try to see if it's different to do that.
And that's
but
why
I wouldn't. That's not what anyone here has done, and that's not anything that we would support other people doing.
And that's why I started with this is my viewpoint, because that could be, because as we were talking about this in Discord, my initial just knowing what I wrote, my initial response was, because the question was, well, could they be checking every 20 minutes for these flash sales? And so based off what I wrote, like even if I removed the delay that I put in, like there's no way you're getting all that in 20 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So my initial response was no, that's just not possible. And then it dawned on me, oh, well, I guess you could have someone that has 20 or 30 different bots all going after different areas. That is a totally shitty thing to do, but I guess it's possible. And maybe they're...
My whole system runs on AWS Lambda, and I can spawn any number of Lambdas on my AWS account at any time and pay for their execution, of course, because that's what it is. But I could send one file to AWS with a list of parameters and execute any number of things on other people's machines all at the same time. So it's not like and then save all of those responses to S3. So it's different. Sorry, that's getting pretty, maybe more technical than we really want to go with this, but I can get as much data as I want from a website at any time because I can do it all asynchronously using other people's computers if I'm willing to pay for it. Because there's a cost associated with delegating to the cloud and doing all of that. But like I said, that would be irresponsible. And if people are doing that, okay, then that's when we talk about, well, how do they solve that problem? I don't know. There are a variety of different paths, but number one, we've seen the same thing happen every time a new shiny was put up, or remember people had these. There were some bots that were malicious that were trolling Discord for whenever Snipe Hunter posted in announcements, they were DDoSing the site. Right? There have been malicious attacks. They have been automated and specifically targeted. Now, that shouldn't extend to community tools. And I think that what we're talking about when we hear, oh, no bots, no, none of that, we're like, whoa, we know people making community helpful tools, they're not hurting the site, they're not causing a problem. But what we don't know is how much of that malicious stuff is still happening. And there might be some. I assume there is some because we know for sure that it was happening before. The site wasn't just going down because someone posted a message and then everyone clicked on the link to the forums. That was not the case.
So that's more or less what I wanted to say, I guess, about that. It's just that, there are very different types of bots. So, I'm not looking to get banned. I was asked to not do something, not going to do it. It's as simple as that. So I don't think it would have had an impact, but asked not to do it, not going to do it. So.
Yeah, I haven't run my thing for a long time. I did it. One person asked me for a data dump. I ran it over a couple hours and I gave it away, and it was less than if I just clicked through the map, so I didn't feel bad about it. Either way, we did, on a positive note, we did finally get to Settlers of Elyria. Is this...
Yeah, you weren't here for that discussion last week.
I wasn't here.
I'm not happy with that, but...
You're not happy that we're there?
I think it's the wrong order, myself, but...
Personas first?
I don't think... Well, my rationale is you have not advertised. You are not getting new blood here. You'll get stuff sold, but you are not going to maximize the possible sales here. So the only thing I could come up with is they realize that, and they just have other things they need to get to for 2020. So this is just getting it out of the way. So
Yeah, I can't talk about that kind of stuff.
but
Um,
anyways,
yeah, sorry, I would love to join that conversation, but I just can't talk about the marketing stuff. Not specifically for SBS, but just I can't be in that position because of work.
I do have a question that comes specific to this, and I don't know if anyone knows the answers. When NPCs select their settlements or whatever, will the settlement name change? Like we change our settlement names, will theirs change? Because if not, when you start talking about data scraping, you're muted, Neuro, that will become very easy to see what is NPC owned and what is not.
That's a good question. I don't think I actually mentioned that would probably be something to ask the developers directly.
So
it doesn't. I don't. Yeah, that's one of those things because I don't know why the NPCs would actually change the name.
I'm not arguing that they should. I just, with not knowing exactly who owns what, some hidden secrets behind it, it will just become very easy to figure that out. So.
And then the other thing is, if they do decide to do that, they might not show those name changes until after Settlers is complete anyhow, because I don't think it has to be completed during Settlers. The name changes.
Yeah, I mean,
we also know that the names of the settlements were derived from what NPCs would have named them, because they're supposed to be related to historical events or things that were part of the whole development of the world and everything that happened with that. So what I think it is the NPCs have already named them is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, New Lexicon actually is saying in chat here, Caspian said in Discord they wouldn't change the name nor their purchase count as demand and affect prices of surrounding settlements. So thank you for being on the ball about that. I didn't see that one. Of course, as we know, a lot of messages happen in Discord, and you either have to have been there for them or have to know someone who was there for them or is aware. So good detail on that one. Good to know. And it's actually good that they don't affect the demand either, because that at least makes it that if stuff starts getting snatched up in an area that's fairly sparse, but you did kind of want to put down, it's not going to start getting more difficult to put down there just because that's where the NPCs are starting to select. That's nice.
I wish we did know more about how they figure out demand.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll actually post all of the numbers and the information on it. It'd be nice after it's over to be like, so here's how we actually.
Well, I feel like it's important for planning, right? If you're waiting towards the end for a bigger discount as people start purchasing things, does that mean the demand goes up, so the cost goes up, and the discount? I mean, I don't know how any of that works. I just wish people, because there's some, right? There's clearly going to be people that are trying to get the best price. So,
yeah.
Demand is a fudge factor. It doesn't even matter if there's anything implemented to do demand. But
just claiming that it's there is enough.
Yeah, it's otherwise, we pull all the data with all the prices or whatever, and we compare them, and we're like, well, this one went down 9.97%. Why did the other one go down 10.03%? Even if demand is just a fudge factor, or or something that covers that little difference and doesn't even exist, I'm happy with it. I think it's fine, no matter how it works.
Just so long as it works.
Or doesn't work, and it doesn't matter.
And
people are going to buy it.
They keep using that word restart, and in my head, like, I think reset. Did you like give everyone a refund and everything's back how it was? But no, I don't believe that's the case.
I guess we should say, when they say restart, I mean, as far as we know, and I can't imagine they would change this. All sales at this point are final. So anything that's been, because the first initial, I think there was 24 maybe settlements or a combination of things that were able to get purchased. Things crashed. They restarted, or whatever you want to call it, reopened. And that was actually stable for a little while, because that's when all of the duchies got bought up. And then sort of it deteriorated over a few hours, and then they brought it back down. So now you can't access anything. You can't even access the API right now. So it's all shut down. So
I know if one of the quad counts in was it the next kingdom over that ended up actually getting their duchy. So that was,
it's very similar to.
That's one person I know that was really stuff, but other folks it sounded like it was kind of limiting, difficult to get to the things.
It's very almost the exact same or similar as to the again, I don't know what they called it, the after DSS, everyone that had purchased had their go around but had not been in the line, like that initial opening also kind of went the same way. It lasted for like 5 minutes, and some people got through, but they honored all of the ones that were able to get purchases, so I don't think that will change. So 30 what we're gonna have probably 30 days of this, 35. How many we're down now? Has it been a week yet? No.
I don't think we make a judgment on the number of days left until it's going to be continuously up. I don't know why you buy now is my big question. I had considered on my other account picking up a settlement or even a county, but it's the wrong time. I can't do it seasonally, right? Spending money on other people. And I don't, it doesn't feel as much like I'm involved with the community. Like it's easy to spend money when everybody is working together to try to get something done, right? And DSS was perfect for that. It was being a part of something. It was great. And people felt good about spending money. Like, even if in retrospect, like, maybe I didn't need to spend that extra 200 or whatever. It doesn't matter. At the time, people felt good about doing it. And now, if you didn't already want it and weren't so with Duchy is totally understandable, right?
Right.
Already wanted it. You missed the window to be able to buy it. Now it's the window.
And you have the money saved up.
And you've set the money aside months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For a settlement.
How much were the lowest settlements? It was supposed to be 65, but I don't know what the actual.
No, I didn't get, not yet anyways. It was.
I don't think anything is that low yet, but I didn't.
I'm trying to remember. I didn't either. The ones I looked, maybe down to $82, $84. Mm-hmm. So I will say that at the start, and I think they've discounted some things just because of the problems. They give those ranges, but it basically averaged out to like 1,500, 100. So 1,000 for a duchy would be the average, 500 for county, 100 for a settlement between the ranges. And all of the duchies were above that average, but all of the counties and settlements were below that average, actually just starting out. So
A lot of counties were in the high 3s to 4s range. And I couldn't access settlements. I tried to reload several times to be able to see, but the one that was on sale for 72 when I could get in.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking 65 is like the highest that I would want to spend on a settlement, and
it would
if
have
I
to
look
be
in-
the ideal hamlet that you wanted.
no, I mean, if I go in and I found one for 65, I would buy now just to know that I have one settlement, and then I'd wait until later to try and get something for lower. But if there's nothing at 65, I'm not going to think. But yeah, it
Do
seems.
you want a settlement?
I mean, I might as well. I mean, I don't know. Just to have one, but I don't really want to spend as much money on it.
I'll buy you one for Christmas. I want to see what happens. I don't
think it's going to be much different than your.
You'll never be there. You'll be exploring. You'll come back and everything will be broken down and overgrown.
No. I think that if he had a settlement, he would have very specific ideas for it.
And there would be an alt. I don't have to be there.
Hey, I'm serious. Tell me where you want. Can you gift these? Well,
it should be in somewhere in Theoryforge.
Well, there's only one. I mean, there is one available there. You can certainly purchase it.
I'm saying. Right.
Oh, up there.
I don't know.
I think there's a much better Turesk area that.
I'm going to say we've gone on for about an hour here, and we can keep going on, but I had promised a Sunsight firework giveaway, and so I'm going to roll this lovely, I'm not sure how the focus is going to look here, or the lighting. It's D20 here, and we'll see what the result is. We got a 4. Who is number 4? That is Hellmoon 1500. Hellmoon 1500. All right. Send a whisper to me. And legendary neurotoxin, and give me your username, and I can send you those fireworks. And if you already got some, great. You can give them to someone else. Free gift.
Zeke made a good point. Going back a little bit, the entire idea of chat's making me miss this. Just sort of pointing out, I don't know how many mayor cities were unclaimed, but keeping them as NPCs instead of asking the community to buy even more stuff. You know, we've talked about, especially the kingdom. Like, I feel like, what was it, $3,500? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I would keep a lot of this as NPCs. I mean, we've talked about that. I feel like you get more, in the long run, more money out of, you know, a live event or something, letting people fight over that kingdom as your game opens. I feel like that's worth much more than $3,500. But
the argument here is there are two sides. One is the game is about interacting with NPCs. That's number one, right? So the whole game design is based around interacting with NPCs. So interaction with NPCs has to be great. So first you think, okay, well then wouldn't it be great to have NPC dukes or even an NPC king? And then the other side of the argument is, can NPC leadership code be okay?
You know, that's an interesting point. As I understand, there's a limit to what an OPC can do without player interaction. They'll only ever be able to get to, like, you know, a functional mediocre artisan level. You can make all the basic things, but you're not not doing something super exceptional. You're not innovating on anything as an OPC. I have to imagine the NPCs are going to be kind of in that range, maybe with some more plus or minus variance than what an OPC would be expected to do. That there will be some who lead better, that run better, that they get better support from their local community than a player would, just because there's some, I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's racial and religion combination, plus they did some heroic deed that they were recognized for or something. And that's why they're able to be a better leader than the player, just because the NPC has some history or something. So I don't know. Who knows? There's definitely a lot of room for variance, but I would imagine compared to an OPC I would imagine is always going to be about like a C, B minus to D plus range of individual in general.
But we're
leave them on
talking
auto.
about true NPCs, though.
I'm saying just relative to an OPC, that I believe they're going to be a lesser variant sort of range, and that NPCs are going to be a greater variant sort of range. But we'll see. What I do know is that anybody who thinks the game's going to have too many players relative to NPCs probably needs to remember the fact that unless everybody decides, even if you all decide to be a ward of the state or whatever, you don't have a family, if everyone decides to be, hobo orphan Batman, then there's still going to be a large amount of, ancillary NPCs related to that person that exist in the world otherwise. But I don't imagine that's going to be the case. There's going to be a lot of people that's just normal existence. I've got a family, got whatever last name was appointed, or, join player families that exist. And you've just got an extended NPC family, and that's just what it is. So for every player, there could be anywhere from, 2 to, 10, 20 individuals, depending if you got a nice house, big house or not. Maybe an old soul, who knows?
But
oh man,
regarding sales, before we hang up for the night, I think that the push for selling the highest level leadership positions is important because it diminishes the need for at launch high quality, high level leadership AI.
Say that again.
So we want kings to be or monarchs to be accounted for, because we don't want to have to care if monarch AI is bad. We want dukes to be accounted for, because we don't want to care if duke AI is bad. At the count level, it becomes much less meaningful on a global scale, but we need to, if they can check those things off on the list, going down in that way, right? The more high level leadership occupied by humans, the better the world will run, because there's so many moving parts to operating a duchy, and it's about managing and communicating with people. And computers are not good at communication roles right now, and that's why people get automated out of manufacturing roles and extra people get hired into communication roles. It's the same thing with big business as when we talk about game AI. And communication roles ideally are occupied by and managed by human beings, so that we don't run into that problem that we don't know how to make a computer CEO yet.
What happens if there is a duchy that has a bad duke, AI duke?
We're about to find out, aren't we?
Well, but I mean, you're saying that we don't want that, but maybe we do.
I don't know. Well, I'm up for I mean, I'm chaotic neutral in general, so I'm up for seeing how it plays out.
Will players be able to
Yeah.
belong to NPC-owned counties? And because
If you spark in an NPC-owned county, an NPC is your count.
I'm just curious. Yeah, well, there was a question earlier about the sort of map data and whether it would persist after all this through the live launch. I don't think that would, because
they said they were going to pull it down at one point. I mean, it's down right now. I can't even open up the page. So, but no, none of that will be.
Well, I just imagine how easy it would be, right? That this settlement has this number of players, this amount of them are militia type. How easy that would be to sort of manipulate.
Cartography is supposed to be an in-game skill. I expect that some third-party sites will help, and wikis and stuff will help keep things going. But if the world is dynamic enough, it'll be hard to keep that up to date. And in-game, in-person communication, or through Discord or whatever, sharing screenshots and leveling up cartography skill is going to be the way. I hope you won't be able to just log into the game server with a bot and get cartography details. That would be a real bots are terrible conversation, wouldn't it?
Yes. I'm just waiting for this awkward pause to end. I'm still waiting.
We end on awkward pauses. I'm just I'm trying not to join into the whole upset thing in chat, because I've been there and I don't have time for that right now.
Oh, speaking of that, there was some kerfuffle about old souls and buying power and that and the other. A lot of
so you bought yourself a curse.
Yeah, right. And there's so many angles that I'm thinking about. It's like, great, so you bought an old soul for a ranger but you want to be a fisherman, or you bought an old soul for a fisherman but you want to be a gladiator. Great job. It's one of those things where there's so much potential variance with it that it's hard to really say whether it's ever going to be an advantage to anybody or not. You have to actually use it to even have it be advantageous in any way possibly. But I believe there was some amount of complaint about what an old soul is and what sort of advantages it imparts. And I feel like it's an old conversation that we've already seen before. So I wasn't going to bring it full circle and bring it all up again. Just it feels like this is one that's going to keep coming up and probably get explained a little more and come up again and get explained a little more.
So people were complaining that you were able to purchase
or otherwise earn something that gives you an advantage over.
Are they not new to Elyria?
And claiming that SBS said this was not going to be a pay-to-win game and this and that and the other. And, that always goes back to the conversation about what does it even mean to win an MMO? Like, if you're not having fun, you're clearly not winning.
I don't know. That seems like...
I mean, everything about it.
That seems like fishing for drama right there.
Yeah.
Literally the entire pay structure is to purchase things that advance you within the game.
Well, once the game is launched, I guess because you can buy story points, maybe. Yeah, we'll find out later. Theoretically, you can only buy a spark, right?
When the game is live, I believe, sparks and souls were the only things, though I bet name changes or being able to get a special last name or something like that might be some things that they, otherwise make available, or maybe some other things. And then, of course, I always bring up the idea that, if the game does really well, it might be 2 years down the road. It's like, well, everyone that wants to get in on a new start because they're getting their asses kicked on whatever servers they're on right now, we're going to spin up one new server right in the middle of the United States. Good luck, everyone. And, every couple of years, spin up a new server.
Well, that would be the best business plan if they can get everything working well. I agree completely, and that's something that's been done with other games that have longevity issues for a long time. I played a web-based game called War Tune for a while. It was a pay-to-win game, but you could never catch up to people by paying to win, because the people who started paying earlier with the things that got up were always ahead of you. So they just kept opening new servers, and people had their wallets ready, and they jumped into the new server, and they paid to be the god of that server. And I think that COE captures that desire that people have for that kind of jump, but not the impetus with the you can never catch up, ideally, right? We'll have to see how it all gets there, but how it all happens in reality. But I get it.
And not just the subject of winning the game, but then there's also the subject of what is even end game in something like this. Because for something where there's so many axes by which somebody can, express superiority or, dominance or control or whatever, it's one of those things where I feel like you're going to have a lot of people competing for and trading what the best of what they have is, that you're going to have, if one player's idea of winning is being able to make the absolute best blades that anybody can possibly make, probably is partnered with somebody who they believe is the best metallurgist that can make the best metals for blades that can possibly be made. And so, I mean, what is it to win? You can't actually be the best metallurgist and the best bladesmith possible. They've said it. You just can't. Ain't possible. The amount of specialty and specificity to be the absolute best at one thing is not something that you will have lifetimes to be able to, master some other thing as well. And, you can get pretty good at things, I would imagine. But, we're talking best of the best of the best with things. Yeah, no, you're going to be, kind of isolated and pigeonholed a little bit. So there's definitely, it's meant to be a lot of back and forth, working with a lot of people. Just because you've got the best blade doesn't mean you've got the best sword ever made. Someone's still got to make the hilt. They've still got to balance it, get the harmonics worked out and everything. Fine tune it to the grip of the individual who's supposed to be using it for maximum effect. But I don't know if we're going to get that level of specificity. We'll see.
See, you jumped so quickly to being the best craftsman in the world, and my immediate thought was can I be the first person to smack a monarch with a fish?
There you go. If that's what's winning,
that was what popped into my head. And I'm not totally into smacking people with fish, but it just happened to pop into my head at the time. What would my goal be? When would I feel like I actually won the game?
I don't know. For me, if I enjoy it for 10 years, then I've won. If
I enjoy a game for 3 months, I've won, and I've already enjoyed Chronicles of Elyria for 3 months. So, as long as I don't throw a whole bunch more money at it, I think I'm okay. And I can be disappointed here and there. I will be disappointed.
As long as they don't have another Searing Plague, you're good to go.
Yeah, as long as there's no...
I like from Ariana Evany, for me, winning is to not be killed, my character to die of old age while tending to a profession. It's you're going to need a lot of people putting their lives on the line and safety and defense and everything for you to be able to be that insulated, because that's that's a very, I believe, ambitious sort of goal, unless you're planning to be living it up in the big city.
But when you're on your deathbed, just think, who did I smack with a fish?
Yeah. Well, the two aren't mutually exclusive. If you can hatch a plan to smack a fish with smack a monarch with a fish, smack a fish with a monarch. That would be even more impressive, I think.
And on that note, we are 15 minutes over. So, unless y'all have anything else pressing.
No, I think that was it.
Okay.
I just saw the old soul conversation. Want to kind of bring that one up again real fast and take it all the way to slapping the whale with your king.
Remember where we have another show to spend some time on Reddit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've got to write the inverse of the posted last time. Instead, talking about being able to move to a different city instead of talking about system. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. And Hellmoon, you got your prize there. The Sunsight Fireworks, we're going to have more giveaways. That was one of the reasons why I was so happy with the advent calendars. I got tons of shit to give away. You want doves? I got doves. You want cats? I got cats. You want trebuchets? I might give you a trebuchet. We'll see.
I'll take your trebuchet.
And racing.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, everyone have a good Christmas. Assuming you celebrate it, we will be back. Next show is an Ashes show, and hopefully we will have
something to talk about.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say it, but there you go. All right. Everyone have a good rest of the week. And again, Merry Christmas.
See ya.